There were some watch parties scheduled across the state and some here in Charlotte. And News 14 Carolina's Brad Broders joins us live from town Charlotte with more on that. Brad?
Well, Tim, tonight's watch here inside the convention center was one of 5,000 across the country, but it was really the least likely watch party. That was because these folks in here were credentialed to watch the nomination speech at Bank of America Stadium. However, inclement weather forced them to go inside at Time Warner Cable Arena, meaning a couple of thousand people watched it here on these big screens right here. But although they weren't outside, they certainly had a lot of energy inside the convention center tonight. It was not only a rallying cry, but also a recruiting tool for Obama for America volunteers. They use this opportunity and an audience of a couple thousand people to remind them that the election is just 61 days away, and that it's important more than ever to get out, start registering voters block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and city by city across North Carolina. Obviously, President Obama won this state by a razor-thin margin in 2008. The Democrats and President Obama hoping to repeat that in 2012, but obviously all the polls show a very tight race, if not a little bit of a lean advantage to Governor Mitt Romney. So remains to be seen how tonight's energy will transfer from the speech, from these fans here tonight watching President Obama into the weeks ahead before November 6th. But Tim, certainly a lot of energy. Folks were coming in here. This place was filled in just about an hour. They were given American flags and certainly chanting the familiar "Yes, we can," fired up, ready to go, that we heard so much in 2008 on the campaign trail with then candidate Barack Obama. Tim?
Brad, a lot of these folks came from out of state, and I think you talked to one that was from Pennsylvania. There had to have been some level of disappointment. Do you think those people left with that disappointment gone and they're ready to do that grassroots effort that President Obama's campaign is so well known for?
Yeah, I mean, there obviously was disappointment. I mean, obviously, it's a difference from seeing someone on a monitor and actually being there live, whether it's at a football stadium or a basketball arena. But, you know, I was about, I'd say, a third out-of-state people, about two-thirds in-state people today. Obviously, I didn't notice any different energy. I think once they kind of came in the same room together, had American flags together, had the signs, waving it together, I think this really was a unified room, whether it was from North Carolina citizens or citizens across the country. So whether it's Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ohio, that these folks were here from tonight, I think they will take that back to their districts, to their cities, and work hard for the Obama campaign in what is expected to be a very close election. It might come down to a state or two, or it might come down to 10 counties in the entire nation to swing this election one way or the other. So that's why supporters on both sides, the President Obama side and the Mitt Romney side, so important to get out that vote and get that turnout high for their respective candidates. Tim?
Brad, one last question. I know you live in here, Charlotte, full-time, so you're going to be a bit of a homer on this issue, but you talked to a lot of people that were out of state. What do you think is the impression that most people here from out of state think of Charlotte now that they're leaving?
You know, I'm a homer. I love Charlotte. I love the city. I've grown up here most of my life. But I did get a great sense. I think a lot of people maybe have never been here before. I think a lot of people I talked about, they liked how it was a very compact city. There were a lot of things to do. It was clean. I heard a lot of clean. And, Tim, you and I were in Tampa last week. And I can't take away from this that I know we heard the open and accessible a lot from Democratic National Convention organizers leading up to this. But certainly compared to Tampa, there was a lot more activities in the streets of Charlotte where just citizens can come, maybe look at some things, just kind of walk around. Whereas Tampa, it was basically if you weren't a delegate or someone in the party, Tampa was a lot less inviting. So I think Charlotte can take away from that. I think organizers did a good job of if you weren't a delegate, Uptown was still available and still inviting for you to come in and see it and walk around and kind of soak in an experience which the city and the state may never see again. So certainly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of folks here in Charlotte, in North Carolina, and from across the country. Well, Tim, I'm on right now what was supposed to be the television platform behind me, but as you can see behind me, crews are no longer setting up, but they are now breaking down. And obviously, as you just mentioned, this is a move that obviously is going to be disappointing to tens of thousands of people across the state of North Carolina and across the country who had a credential to attend one of the most publicized and largest political events ever in the state, but will now have to watch it on television. Despite weeks of work by hundreds of these crew members and media teams, Bank of America Stadium will sit empty Thursday night, denying 65,000 people a chance at history, watching President Obama accept his party's nomination.
Well, it's terribly disappointing.
Convention organizers say the threat of lightning and thunderstorms Thursday evening forced them to move the event from the football stadium to the much smaller capacity of Time Warner Cable Arena.
The decision was made based on a long analysis of the weather, and we've been watching it for a long, long time.
The GOP wasted little time to pounce. In a statement, a Republican spokesperson said, first, the DNC had to cancel their opening event at Charlotte Motor Speedway due to low enthusiasm. Now President Obama is being forced to move his acceptance speech to a smaller venue just to avoid the embarrassment of speaking to an empty stadium. Convention CEO Steve Kerrigan strongly denied that.
19,000 person waiting list, plus a lot of folks who are going to come over from here to the stadium. So we were doing great there. It was going to be a full house for sure.
The president is expected to speak to those who were credentialed at a conference call Thursday morning. Even with a venue change, President Obama campaign officials said his message and energy from supporters won't be affected.
And we would have loved to have more people in that stadium for the president to talk to, but we're not going to miss a beat. I know the president's going to be excited to come down here, to both talk to folks here in North Carolina, but across the country.
And convention officials wouldn't comment on the cost of switching venues at the last minute from Bank of America Stadium to Time Warner Cable Arena, saying it wasn't about dollars and cents, but about public safety. Reporting live inside Bank of America Stadium in Uptown Charlotte, Brad Broders, News 14, Carolina. According to the Joint Information Center just a few minutes ago, they say that right now it is still at a one person in, one person out situation right now. What I can tell you is since that last half an hour, they let anyone with a credential through that checkpoint right there. There is another checkpoint before you get to the doors of Time Warner Cable Arena.
I don't know that there's a ceiling for Anthony Fox. I think the sky's the limit.
North Carolina Democrats were energized Tuesday after seeing one of their own, Charlotte Mayor Anthony Fox, take center stage.
He has vision, and a person who knows where they want to go just kind of has you to buy into that vision.
Tiffany Powers, a delegate from Lumberton, said Mayor Fox's speech about Charlotte's can-do spirit represented Fox's ability to lure the Democratic National Convention to North Carolina.
He said what he wanted to do for Charlotte. He brought this convention here, and here we are, all 50 states and the territories.
Mayor Fox's potential in politics is also getting noticed by congressmen like 4th District Representative David Price.
It's very charismatic. You could tell that tonight. I mean, the guy speaks well, articulates well, but he also, behind the scenes, is very effective.
Mayor Fox, however, was humble after the speech, more a happy host than promising politician.
It's gratifying. I mean, it's just such an awesome experience to have all of these folks from all over the country right here in our city.
In Charlotte, Brad Broders, News 14, Carolina. Yeah, Tim, many people are still picking up those late arriving passengers at this hour. DNC volunteers are also staying late and keeping a positive attitude as they accommodate out-of-state delegates who might not arrive in Charlotte until as late as midnight tonight, thanks to a nasty weather front earlier.
It's going to be a long night.
Labor Day was anything but leisurely and relaxing for DNC volunteer Meredith Trunk.
I've been standing since 3 o'clock, and now I'm back, and I can think that they're going to be asking me for overtime.
Trunk and a dozen or so other DNC volunteers had their night extended Monday, as did hundreds of arriving DNC delegates and other passengers flying into the Queen City. A wicked weather front dropped heavy rain, wind, and lightning, making a mess of timely departures and arrivals on the boards at Charlotte Douglas. Flights were delayed anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours.
I wouldn't want to fly in this weather, personally.
If it's lightning outside, that's 10 minutes. Another bolt's another 10 minutes.
Limo driver Jeff Weathers was also running on fumes. With the storm, he expected to be up until 1 a.m., transporting passengers, only to get up at 4 a.m. Tuesday and do it all over again.
Red Bull and plenty of black coffee.
Despite the delays, Trunk promised she'd greet the late arriving DNC passengers with the same Southern hospitality.
I can just imagine there's going to be a lot of very tired people saying, well, if this is what the Charlotte airport is like, what's the town going to be like, Well, I hope they give us another chance.
According to the airport, because of tonight's delays, the last arriving flight is set to come in from Fayetteville at about 11:30 later this evening. There were also a handful of cancellations. Reporting live at Charlotte Douglas, Brad Broders, News 14, Carolina.